you guys just saw shoot this big elk that's laying right here. All of you write me and say, Randy, that was a great deer video you did about the gutless method on a deer. When are you going to do it on an elk? Well, we finally have shot an elk in the time of day where we're going to have good light, lots of time. The question a lot of you have is, how do you guys see so many elk on public land? Well, we go places other people don't want to go. And when I tell some of you that, a lot of you say, well, that's great, Randy, how do I drag an elk that far? Well, we're going to show you here is everything you need to know to get that elk into manageable pieces, hang it up in the shade, and make however many trips you're comfortable with, whether it takes 1 day, 2 days, maybe 3 days. But knowing this, what we call the gutless method, is going to make you so much more comfortable in hunting the backcountry. So with that, I just want to show you to start with things, the very basic things I use. And some of you say, well, I don't want to carry a saw. You don't need a saw for this. What you need is a really good scalpel blade knife. This here is the Gerber Vital. And they have these replaceable blades. Once a blade starts getting dull, you can put it right here. The disposal one goes in there and the new one comes in out here. I don't screw around. Once they start getting dull, I change them. The other thing you want is a really good traditional knife. This here is a folder. It's the Gator Premium by Gerber. It is sharp as sharp gets and it stays that way. And I'm going to show you how you can get this head off without a saw. And this is really good when you get in those places where you want to apply a little friction, a little leverage, because these disposable blades on these scalpel blade knives, you start putting any torque or side pressure on that and you can pop them pretty quick. So weighs a little bit, you know what, 6-7 ounces. To me it's worth the weight of bringing it with. The other really critical part in all of this is the game bags you use. You'll see this, I use these ones by Caribou Game Bags, and these game bags were all in this bag at one time just a short while ago. And the reason I use these ones, not because I get paid anything. I use these because they're synthetic. So when they're synthetic, they're gonna dry out. If it's raining, whatever, if you want to get that quick layer of crust, that dried blood on your meat, these bags are gonna allow heat and moisture to come out a lot faster. And you get a quick seal on that meat, keeps the meat moist inside. They're tough, they're just super, super tough. They're reusable. These ones are brand new. I've got a lot of them at my shop that I've used many, many times. They got drawstrings on them. You'll see when we start putting the game in these game bags. These Caribou game bags are the best ones I've ever found. So the very first decision you have to make while you're doing this is, are you going to cape the animal or are you not? Because if you're not going to cape the animal, life is way, way easier. You're going to start up the front. You're just going to roll everything back. You're going to take this quarter off, that quarter off. You're going to peel this backstrap off. You're going to roll the cape that way, roll the bull over, repeat, and you're almost going to be done that quick. The fact that I'm going to show you how to do it the harder way, salvaging the cape, using the cape, is going to take me longer. And the manner in which you do these cuts, if the bull's downhill, if he's under some rocks in a brush pile, maybe you're going to have to start with this end or whatever. The point is, know the cuts, know the pieces you got to break it into and how to do it, and everything else will fall into place. The very first thing I'm going to do is, since I'm salvaging this cape, I'm going to do a dorsal cut all the way down the spine right here to about that point. And then you're going to see me roll this hide over this way, and I'm going to take the front shoulder off, and then I'm going to take this back strap off. But depending on if you're uphill or downhill, and I'm going to feel how much rigor mortis this bull has before I get started, I may take this hind quarter off before I do the rest of this, because the hind quarters are the most, I guess, unruly parts of the elk to screw with. So I'm going to look him over here. I'm going to check for how much the rigor mortis is set in. And I might do this hind quarter first. But normally, if rigor mortis isn't bad, you're just gonna start right up here. You're gonna make like a zipper cut right down the spine, right to there. And you'll see right here where this little tuft is, if you put your hand there, that's where the pelvic and hip bone all meet. So anything in front of this is backstrap. Anything behind that is hind quarter. So let me take a look here and see what we got. The very first thing you want to do with an elk is, you see this hock right here? You never want to cut that, but you want to cut through it because it really gives you a good handhold right there. I see people get out their saws and they start whittling away and cutting legs off in places. See that? Yeah, see this boy, he's got rigor mortis pretty bad here already because we've been doing all this TV stuff and took a while to get over to him. Huh. All right. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to reposition this bowl a little bit, and I'm going to take this hind quarter off first. So I got a little bit of work here to do to get that done, but I'm going to show you how I do it. What you're going to see me do, since I'm going to do this top hind quarter first, I'm going to go in here. I'm going to go right along here, and I'm going to lift up this leg and kind of get it on my shoulder. And where the ball socket joint meets right down in here, there's a tendon. Once you clip that tendon, this whole hind quarter will go thump that way. And then you just peel it off the pelvic bone. So you don't need to get into the guts, nothing like that. You'll be in good shape. So you saw us get this hind quarter off here. There's really nothing left on it. This is the pelvic bone right here. Once you break this, the ball socket joint goes in right here. Once you break that and this rolls off that way, you just use your knife and it's like filleting a fish. You can see it's nothing but bone left there. So now this hind quarter's out of the way. What I'm gonna do, I'm gonna go up to the head. I'm going to start this dorsal cut, and I'm going to come all the rest of the way down. And your taxidermist is probably going to want you to do a Y cut up here. So you start here, you do a Y to this burr at the back, a Y to this burr at the back. You'll be taking the hide off here, and we'll be taking the hide off here. And you'll see when we're done, it works pretty slick. The one thing you're going to find, those of you who've never shot an elk or gutted an elk or caped an elk, this leather on their neck is so thick and it dulls knives so fast. It's just from all the fighting they do. I mean, look how thick that leather is right there. That's almost a ½ inch thick. And again, you always want to go with the grain of the knife, or the grain of the hair. So, and now you'll see, once I get through most of this long neck mane, I'll go back to using that scalpel blade. And the leather back here is far easier to cut. So now I've got through all of this really thick leather here with this big sturdy Gerber gator. Now, a couple things. I'm just gonna zipper this the rest of the way down. Your taxidermist may tell you, you know what, you only have to go to right here. And they'll tell you what rib, you don't come 4 ribs forward or whatever. I'm gonna zipper this all the way down, and I try to give a taxidermist way more than they need. So I'm gonna take this, the whole rest of this as the cape. So now, you watch me start that dorsal cut. I'm gonna start rolling this cape over this way. One of the things you're gonna run into is, how do I get this front leg off here? Some taxidermists will say, just go and make a big long cut here, that's fine. Others just like a little pocket along this hairline here where the back leg is. And that's what I do. I just start here in the armpit, make a little cut, and you'll see this. This will make a lot more sense once we get down to this front leg. Oh, a lot of bloodshot on this front leg. He took it right there. He took one there and one up here. So this front leg is probably going to be a bit of a project as far as getting it cleaned up, but so I've skinned this cape all the way down like this, up around the neck, and now I gotta figure out how do I get this front leg through this pocket in the cape. And that was the reason for making that cut down from the armpit. And there's still a little bit more to go here. Thought I had them, but I think we're gonna get it here. There we go. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna lift this up, and you'll see this bull got hit right here, and he got hit right here. So this front shoulder is gonna have a lot of bloodshot meat in it. What I'm gonna do, I'm gonna pull this front leg off and get it in a game bag right away, just to cool, get the, keep any dirt off it. But then I'm gonna trim this up really good to get rid of that bloodshot stuff. You don't wanna exert the energy of hauling out a bunch of blood clots that you're gonna throw away. And you don't want bad blood spoiled meat to spoil your good meat. So one of you, I can't remember how long ago it was, someone sent me an email and said, how do you saw the front legs off the chest? You don't have to. Everything that's connected here is just tissue. It's soft tissue connections. So when I start lifting on this, right from the brisket down here, I'm gonna be able to take this whole front quarter right here as one big piece of meat. So this is the piece of meat that's going to give you more steaks than anything. It's a stretch from here to here. They call it the backstrap for the obvious reason. It runs, the ribs come off the spine down here and roll this way. So this pocket between this spine that runs very much in a vertical manner and the ribs that start rolling out from a horizontal manner, in this pocket right here, there's a huge big chunk of beautiful meat. So that's what I'm gonna do right now. I'm gonna start here, and you're gonna see it's just like filleting a fish once you get started. You find the spine right here. It's pretty easy to find, especially on a post-rut bull. He's gonna be a little bit on the leaner side. If you shot an early rut elk or a pre-rut elk, you're gonna have a gob of fat there. So the first thing I do is I just go down here and I try to cut everything away from the spine. And you'll see there's like this, I don't even know what this is called. It's this yellowish looking tendon here. But I just cut that out of the way. And I go down and just make a good cut right here. Like I said, very much like filleting a fish. You see that? How if this was a fish, you'd see very much the same kind of thing. Now, where I separated the hind quarter right here, this big bone right here, anything in front of that is where the backstrap starts. So, right there, you just fillet off the front of that bone. The hind quarter came off the back side. And then what you're gonna do, it takes a little bit of time to figure this out, but you can feel the ribs. They're like right here. And then the ribs end right there. So you wanna be a little careful right here that you don't take your knife and go, because if you do, you're gonna hear, and you're gonna get this really funky smell. The stomach, the guts are right down under there. They're not protected by any ribs right there. Up here, they're well protected by ribs. So you just find where the ribs are curving in there, and you kind of do the same thing there. So now you can see I've pretty much started where this backstrap's gonna go, and then I try to get as much of this done all the way along my path, because once I start peeling this, I just want it to come out in one big chunk and be able to dump it in a game bag right away. All right, so you see how I say it's like filleting a fish? If you want to, what I usually do is I usually put a little cut in there to get my hand in there, and then it's just down and out, down and out. And the more you can pull on it, the more it pulls it away from the bones, and the more meat you're salvaging. Okay, look at that, huh? That doesn't make you hungry, you're a vegetarian. Or a fool. So a lot of people say, I won't do the gutless method because I like the tenderloins. Well, no one likes tenderloins more than I do, so I'm going to show you how to get it out. It connects right up here about where that last rib is, and connects to the pelvic bone right under here. So I'm going to go in underneath these ribs, and I'm going to pull it out. I'm going to cut it, and then I'm going to pull it out this way and cut it off there, and I'm going to have a fully intact tenderloin. But if I was you, I'd be a little bit cautious in this area, because you're going to find that the stomach is very close by. Don't do this in a big hurry. Let's just put it that way. But you get that stuff out of the way, and I'm using this Gerber Vital scalpel blade, and it's super sharp. So the super sharp problem is if it touches this stomach contents, probably going to have a problem. The good part is that it allows me to go in and without much effort cut this tenderloin from up here to down here. So you can see where I've cut it down here. See that? I'm going to try to pull this back. The tenderloin is this muscle right here. It connects right there, and it connects again up here. So what I try to do with my hand as much as possible is just try to break that tissue and get as much of it away from the spine as I can with just my hand. And in short order, it starts coming away from there. And then you'll see I'm being very, very gentle here because this is stomach right there. And I think I've got it cut most of the way down here to where it's about ready to let go. I can get that, and you'll see, it's hard to see, but what I'm doing here is just getting this muscle completely removed from where it connects to the top of the spine, or the bottom of the spine, the top of the tenderloin. And I've had people tell me, well, Randy, it'd be easier to gut it than go through that headache. And the first couple times I tried it this way, I would have agreed with you. Now, I just don't like the gutting mess. Your meat gets more tainted if you got a gut shot. You got all kinds of problems. You got to do the same cuts anyhow to get all your meat out. So it's like, why would I do that? Create a bigger mess to do the same thing. So just about there, you're going to see this big, beautiful, amazing, wonderful, delicious chunk of tenderloin right there. Even smells good. Oh. So what you're going to see me do now is I'm going to go trim all this meat off here, especially this neck roast. There's a lot of brisket and neck and some remnants up here where the back straps were. This is all going to be trimmed burger meat. I'm gonna roll this bull over, I'm gonna repeat the process, and I'm gonna be done with all the meat. The last thing I'm gonna show you is how to get this head off without a saw. One more thing I want to show you or give you a tip about when you're doing the cape, especially up here along the shoulder. I see a lot of people cut holes. You can see I'm pretty far along with this, but like right up here, a lot of people will go like this. They'll put the sharp part of their blade perpendicular to the meat, and they'll make strokes like that. Well, if you push too hard, especially in an area around the front shoulder or front leg area where the hide is thinner, you'll cut through it. So, and again, if you're a trapper, you already know this. Pull your hide tight and run your knife blade parallel to the direction of the hide, not perpendicular to it. You'll almost have to do it on purpose to cut a hole in your hide if you do it this way. If you do it that way, even in the tough leather part, you might. And if you were doing an antelope or a deer and you're doing it into the hide, I'll guarantee you that you're gonna cut one of those items. You're gonna end up with a cape that has a bad cut in it, and your taxidermist is gonna chew you out. So again, little pointer, always go with the grain of the hair and always have your knife blade parallel to the hide. All right, I'm about ready to show you how to take this head off here. You see I went and trimmed all the rib meat, all the brisket, everything. Anything still on this carcass is seriously bloodshot. Right here, you could go in and get the heart if you wanted, but this bull got hit in the heart, so I'm not gonna go in there. You could go back and get the liver and kidneys. I'm not a big fan of liver and kidneys. I don't do organs. The heart is a muscle, so I'll normally eat the heart, but with a big bullet hole in it. So you can see I've took all the neck meat, everything. So we're gonna do some close-ups here. I'm gonna get right here. I'm gonna cut right there, and I'm gonna show you where this, some call it a universal joint, some call it the wonder joint. Right there, we're gonna do some close-ups so you can see how we do this. So take me a minute to get organized here. So if you can, lift the head up and put the nose down more, because the more you can lean this forward, the more it exposes this joint right here. And it's the top, it's where the skull meets the top vertebrae. It's usually right about in there. And you'll know when you hit it. Yeah, I hit it. I'm gonna ask Tyler to get tight on this. I'm gonna carve some of this meat out of here so you can see what it looks like in there. So I've loosened the cape all the way down to the lower jaw so that when I do this, you see right here, that's part of the skull. Over here, same thing, that's part of the skull. So what you're doing is you're just getting your knife in there, working around. And right here, if you got a little scalpel blade like this, it actually works good in this gap right there to cut that. Really what you're doing is cutting the spinal cord and all the membranes in there. And if you can, you work it around any other places. You're just trying to cut all the soft tissue that holds this joint together. Okay, you can see most of that side is loose. See all that gap there? And I'm gonna go do this side, and then I'm gonna give this a big twist, and it should break everything free. So, all right, sometimes, there you go. See how I just gave that a good pop and it came loose? Now, it's pretty easy from here. What you're doing, You're cutting everything that holds his head to his chin, to his throat. All I'm doing here is just removing the last bit of hide and skin. And voila. For all practical purposes, this elk, with the help of my two Gerber utensils and my great camera guy Tyler and some wonderful game bags, this elk in his cape is now ready to get thrown in the mystery wrench pack, hauled up in the brush on the north side. We'll hang them in the trees on the north side where the wind and the cold air will be there all day. And then it's time to start hauling loads. Thank you, Mr. Bull. Thank you, thank you. Thanks for watching. Remember, a couple things. Always cut with the grain of the hide, not against it. Always cut parallel to the hide, not perpendicular. Have good knives, good game bags, and a good backpack. And that's all you need to be a backcountry elk hunter. Now that you know this, there shouldn't be any reason why you aren't out backpack hunting, or at least hunting away from roads and trails where you're gonna find more elk. To hunt away from roads and trails is not a statement, not a political statement on motorized travel. It's just that every study shows elk prefer to be 1 to 2 miles away from motors. Motors are open trails, open roads. So I wish I could make it even simpler than that, but that's as simple as it gets. Thanks for watching.